Welcome back to the London Food Network podcast with your host, Sebastian Candelon. So today, very excited. We're going to be talking to Maylin from the Ferm. And I've been looking forward to this one. So Maylin, tell us a bit about you, where you come from, what you've done, what the business is, and where we can find you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. As you said, I'm Maylin. I'm one of the co-founders of the Ferm. We do fermented foods. So we do kimchi and pickles made out of food waste. So we rescue byproducts such as cauliflower leaves or broccoli stalks and transform them into kimchi and pickles using my co-founder's family recipe. My co-founder is from Korea, Gwangju, which is kind of the mecca for kimchi. So even amongst Koreans, it's the city for kimchi. And I'm originally from Germany, Berlin. I was born and raised there. I used to be a competitive athlete. So I was always super passionate about nutritious foods. And I finished my PhD 2 years ago and was kind of super eager to join a food business. And last year I was looking for the right startup to join for quite a long time, and then met my amazing co-founder, Rebecca, who was also looking for a commercial co-founder. And I had 3 buzzwords in mind, and these were gut health, plant-based food, and zero waste. So when we met, it was just match made in fermentation heaven. Since then we've been on an emotional roller coaster with lots of ups and downs, but more ups than downs, I'd say.
Yeah, I bet. The food industry is full of surprises, isn't it? And so obviously you started your fermentation business. Good time to do so as well, because like you say, I mean, fermented foods in general, it's so many different angles of benefits, from the health side of things to the taste, preservation. And actually your take on it is great, because you're using up things that would otherwise end up in landfill, essentially, right? So it's really nice. I always say about food, people always say that there's big shortages of food in the world and we don't produce enough and all the rest of it. And actually the problem with food is the enormous amount of waste that goes on throughout the whole process, from farming to the table. And these kind of initiatives are amazing. I know in my business, waste has always been a big problem. And we kind of adopted a zero waste policy as well, where we just kind of like thought about every part of the waste process and what we could do with it so that it actually ends up somewhere, thus also reducing the need to farm more, produce more food. So it's nice.
No, yeah, absolutely. And actually 10% of CO2 emissions can be amounted to food waste. So we hope that with our products, we can kind of have an impact. Rebecca, my co-founder, she started the business around 4 years ago. And she did a master's in food waste, and she wanted to kind of marry her heritage, her Korean heritage, with her academic background, and then started the firm and was trying the products and was kind of trying to find a way to use traditional methods, traditional recipes with British produce, because cauliflower leaves, for instance, or cauliflower, you don't grow that in Korea. So she was really kind of applying the Korean methods and combined it with British produce, and the feedback so far is amazing.
Wow. And what's been your biggest kind of win, would you say, so far? What's made it all worthwhile?
Yeah, I guess so. As I said, Rebecca started the business 4 years ago. We met last year. So she was looking for a co-founder for 3 years. And I think we both can count ourselves extremely lucky that we found each other. And since we started working together, we completely transformed the business. We rebranded. So we moved from jars to pouches. So we're now selling our ferments in recyclable pouches, which are extremely colorful. So they really stand out on the shelves. We had our first fundraise and built our own manufacturing site. So everything we do in-house, we produce in-house. We then launched our rebrand. And I think the biggest win is that the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. So over the summer, since we relaunched the pouches, we gained over 130% of stockists. So the feedback was really positive. People are willing to try our products, and they really like the idea. They like the story. They like the pouches. So I think this is the biggest win, that the 4 or 5 months of working on the rebrand are really paying off. And also that because we have our own manufacturing side, we can meet the demand of our customers or potential customers.
Tell me more about your pouches, because I know we briefly touched upon this when we first spoke, and I really like that story. And actually, I think it's a good thing to share, because I think I asked you the question that probably most people ask, and actually I really liked your answer, because one thinks jars, glass jars are kind of more sustainable, they're better for the environment, etc., etc. But actually what your points were for why you adopted the pouches were really valid. And I think actually that the audience would, I'm sure, like to know about this as well. So, do you want to share that?
Yeah, of course. So maybe to start off with, kimchi in Korea is only sold in pouches. So if you go to
Okay.
an Asian supermarket, you would only find kimchi in pouches. And so for Rebecca, it was a no-brainer. But for me, it was kind of similar to your reaction. You were like, well, but kimchi in the UK is sold in glass jars. It looks much more premium, much more sophisticated. But actually, glass is not that sustainable. And there's also, there will be some tax implications in the future with the packaging.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from a transportation CO2 emission point of view, glass is sturdy, glass is heavy, it takes up so much more space. So from a transportation point of view, it's less environmentally friendly than pouches because the pouches are light, they're super small in transport. But also from a food perspective, a product perspective, with the pouches, we put gas absorbents in the pouches. So to prevent them from bloating. But also we have a metal lining in that pouch, so it keeps the temperature stable and also the food's fresher for longer. But also from a consumer perspective, as I said earlier, the pouches stand out in the shelf. So what we did a bunch of focus group to understand how do we need to educate people on the pouches.
Yeah. Right.
Why are pouches better than glass jars? What we also asked them what they want to see on the pouches. So it was a very like consumer-led design approach where we let the consumer decide how we're going to design the pouches and which colors we're going to pick. So that was a very interesting process. And yeah, and last but not least, the amount of breakages and leakages we had with the jars, because we're not pasteurizing, we're naturally fermenting.
Yeah, of course. They keep it expanding, right? More the
So
gases.
exactly. So the fizzing, the leaking, yeah, it was just a nightmare. So not thinking about that anymore is such a relief. And yeah, as I said, the feedback so far has been extremely positive from our stockists.
And also, I mean, obviously from a commercial level, you know, I always think about these things obviously from a commercial level too, and having to store God knows how many jars in glass. You know, it's almost like you need a warehouse for just the storage, right? Whereas with the pouches, they're pretty flat packed, and you can get a hell of a lot more on a pallet than you can glass jars. That must help an enormous amount because people don't think about that. It's the packaging, because you've got to buy in quantities as well in order to bring the cost down to something manageable. You've got to buy quite a significant amount. And with the glass jars, I can imagine you would need a hell of a lot of storage space for that, which is a shame because if you're tight on space like most people are, you know, we'd rather use that space for more production at least than just storing of the packaging. So. And deliveries, of course, as well. Then you've got much more flexibility in the way you deliver. And particularly when you're sending out couriers, for example, that's another one. We've learned very tough lessons with that on what we can and can't send, you know, with a lot of confidence. And definitely glass is just not something you want to be sending via courier. They still treat packages as if they were a football, it seems.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we're so much more flexible now with the pouches. Whenever we go to a meeting or to a networking event, we can always bring the pouches more easily than the
Yeah,
jars
right.
before. And also when we rebranded and we gained a couple of new stockists, we were able to just put all the pouches in our backpacks and cycle to the
Nice.
stockists and deliver in person,
Nice.
which with jars is obviously not that easy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, that sounds like a B Corp registration in the making with your carbon footprint. Nice. And of course, with business, you know, there's always highs, which is why we're in it, but it's also full of many, many lows. So, you know, have you had any kind of low moments where you've kind of questioned your life choices? And, you know, tell us what happened and how did you get through it?
I think I have one really good example of it. I think or in startups in general, you're more reactive than proactive.
Yeah,
Like every day there are new problems and
yeah.
you can't anticipate these problems because sometimes you can't even make them up yourself. And kind of linked to the rebrand or the relaunch of the pouches, because we got so much good feedback. We had like so many new orders coming in, and to the extent we were really struggling to fulfill them because, as I said, we put gas absorbents on the pouches and we import them from Korea, which is one of the biggest gas absorbent suppliers. And they were stuck in transit, so we couldn't fulfill our orders because
How
we needed to
frustrating.
put exactly. We needed to put the gas absorbents in the pouches, but because we didn't have enough, we couldn't fulfill our orders. And then finally we got the delivery. And then Rebecca and I, we had a dinner with some other founders. And then after the dinner, we said, well, we need to go back to our site. to fulfill some orders because our new stockists are waiting for the orders. And obviously, as two founders, like we're not proudly sharing that we did overwork or overtime, but we would never demand that from our staff. So after dinner at 10 p.m., we cycled to our site. It was a beautiful summer night. And then we fulfilled all the orders. And we thought, well, we will be done in like 1-2 hours. We left our site at 6 a.m. because just a couple of more problems just arose. So for instance, we were fulfilling the orders, then realized there are no best before dates on the pouches. So we had to manually put the best before dates on the pouches. We then realized that one of our SKUs, so one of our flavors, the pickle, we didn't have enough stock. So we said, okay, we need to produce it. We need to make it. So we started making it and then realized we don't have enough vinegar. So in the middle of the night, we had to find the supermarket or a shop where we could buy the vinegar.
Whoa.
Rebecca cycled there, came back, we produced the pickle. We then realized that the vinegar has barley in it, which is an allergy. So we had to manually put the allergy on the pouch.
What a nightmare. Jeez. Huh.
Yes. So yeah, I guess as an entrepreneur, you just need to be extremely resilient and you just need to come up with solutions. So instead of kind of panicking over these problems, we're like, okay, so what are we gonna do? How do we split the work? So yeah, now we ended up working until 6 a.m. in the morning, cycled home.
Whoa.
I might have cried a little bit, but I think it was just out of tiredness. I never in a single second doubted, I never doubted the decision that I joined the startup. I'm still super grateful. I still know it's the right thing.
Yeah.
I'm entirely passionate about it, but yeah, it's just all these small problems coming up and then you need to find solutions. And then after 2 hours of sleep, I went back to the site. Pepper went to a meeting. I went back to the site and I delivered some of the pouches in person.
Can you imagine all these people consuming your lovely products on these days following the delivery, absolutely oblivious to what went into actually getting that product on the shelf, right? I mean, the amount of times, even in my seafood business, is, these kind of challenges where you just, it's like problem after problem after problem, but somehow you do it, you get it done, and that's it, life goes on. And no one understands the struggles. No one understands what goes on behind the scenes. And part of the reason for this podcast is just that. It's just, I think it's really important to talk about these things because I always say to people, no one goes into the food industry to make money, or those that do, good luck to you, because it takes a long time to really build something good enough, and a lot of pain goes into it, and at the same time, a lot of love. That's why we do it. I think the brands that do survive the test of times is all about exactly what you just displayed there. It's just acts of, well, courage, let's call it, persistence, maybe stubbornness, a little bit of crazy, but all with the same goal, and that's to create a beautiful product and allow people to enjoy it somehow. So
yeah.
Nice.
No, I think you're completely right. And I appreciate you asking the question because I think we definitely learn more from all these negative stories. And yeah, just building resilience. I mean, I don't know if it's the same for you when you had your business, but for me, the most rewarding thing is to see our products on shelves or even like see the products at my friends' fridges or them sending me photos. So then I kind of realize, okay, it's all worth it because I have my friends or even people I don't know enjoying our products. And whilst they enjoy the products, we also have an impact on the environment because we're rescuing food waste.
No, absolutely. I think these are the moments that make it worthwhile. I love a good review as well. So every now and then when you see the positive reviews land or someone takes their time to actually email in or call us some sort of feedback, then that's really nice, especially when you're, a lot of the times that when I started out, I was just a fishmonger. It was me serving the customer. So I would get direct feedback all the time and that was nice. But of course, when you start to scale and you start putting your products onto retail and various other channels into the food system, you lose that communication and that kind of connection with the people. So anytime at all, like you say, that you see that product on a post, maybe on social media, someone cooking something with your product and they're enjoying it and they want to share that, or when they take the time to write a review, those moments are great. I've had people like send me a photo of one of our products at top of Scotland somewhere, like middle of nowhere, because we have distributors that distribute some of our range, with photo of our branded products on this little store and stuff like that. It's kind of cool, isn't it, really? Yeah, it's nice. I like that.
No, absolutely.
So what's your plans for the future? I mean, you guys are obviously, you package for the retail side, right? You don't do food service, restaurants, that kind of stuff? Is it mostly for the direct to consumer?
No, we also supply food service, so cafes, restaurants, canteens. but obviously that's small in bulk. Whereas the packaging we designed is only for retail. And yeah, we want to grow our presence in the UK among retail, but we also want to expand to Europe. With me coming from Germany, obviously I would love to kind of have my products in Germany as well. We also want to expand our product range. So as a German, it comes quite naturally to also invest into sauerkraut at some point.
Of course.
So we're kind of looking into recipes, obviously also kind of using family recipe of
Yeah, I
mine.
was going to say, I know twist, a Korean fusion,
Exactly.
German sauerkraut.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we have big ambitions, and obviously you never know if it works out, but I think having this vision in mind is definitely helping to stay motivated and have a purpose. But also at
Absolutely,
the end
yeah.
of the day, I mean, 9 out of 10 startups fail, and Rebecca and I, we keep saying, at least we have fun. Like every day, we enjoy working together. We enjoy building the business, and obviously, we really hope that with our products, we have an even bigger impact by rescuing more food, but also because we're naturally fermenting. Also kind of contributing a little bit on the topic on gut health, which is also increasingly important, and kind of
Absolutely.
bringing good, real food to the consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the angles on the health benefits are just unlimited, isn't it? Every day I seem to hear about another benefit with things to do with the gut microbiome and mental health. You know, I've certainly been very interested in what I ingest much more these days than ever, because I find now, at least now, there's some. In fact, if anything, there's too much information. It's very difficult to kind of like
Yeah.
absorb everything, and still there's a lot of conflicts I find about what's good or bad. But generally speaking, it's irrefutable that your gut health has links to almost all disease. And
Yeah.
one of the main foods that people recommend is your fermented foods. And I think we definitely need to talk more about that, because it's a very easy thing to consume. It's delicious, doesn't cost the earth. And of course, if we buy your products, we're also reducing waste. So it's kind of like a no-brainer, isn't it?
No, exactly. And I mean, because our products are fermented, obviously we claim a best before date because we have to, but because it's fermented, it can last for ages.
Yeah.
I think the oldest kimchi Rebecca ever tried was from her grandmother, which was 4 years old.
Wow.
And because it's so preserved, you can just,
Crazy, isn't
eat
it?
it without any concerns. But yeah, as you said, gut health, I mean, there's so much information out there, but I think just to kind of pin it down, the gut is considered the second brain. 95% of serotonin is produced in the guts. And also, as you said, it's like closely connected to the immune system. Yeah, only benefits. And I think that's also how Rebecca and I got together. I mean, obviously, her culture background, she kind of grew up with kimchi, but she also knows the benefits of having fermented food every day. And for me, with my background in competitive sports, I'm just super passionate about fueling my body the right way.
Absolutely. And it's funny, you're from Germany, so I'm not too sure about Germany, but certainly the Eastern Bloc, even up to Estonia. So my wife is from Estonia, and you go into her basement in her mum's house, and you've got, pickled things from, I mean, I think like 1980 something was the oldest one I'd seen.
Wow.
It's crazy, but it's common, right? It's most places in the world have some form of fermentation that is done, right? Because of course, back in the day, that was done as a means to preserve food to consume in the winter when there aren't so many foods available. And to a lot of cultures, it's quite a normal thing, but even there, it's kind of dying out, isn't it, with the newer generation? So I think to try and bring that back in a way that makes it accessible is nice, and hopefully the trend will continue to grow with all this kind of stuff, because it is very, very good. And so more with a business hat on now. So you sell to retail, as in retailers. You sell to food service, so kind of cafes, bars, restaurants, that kind of stuff, or kitchens, shall we say. And you have online as well. I take it you can buy your stuff online.
Yes.
Yeah.
So as you correctly say, so we are in independent supermarkets, and we try to get into bigger retailers, food service. And we also have an online shop. So we also sell directly to consumers. Obviously, with food products, or especially in our case, chilled food products, there is probably still some skepticism around shipping fruit, which is super fair. I mean, it's more convenient to go to supermarket and then just buy our products there. But we think there is an opportunity, especially with the social media, TikTok. So we heard quite a lot that the next big thing is TikTok shop. So we also try to, we try to tap into these fields as well, while it's not kind of deviating from our focus. And then hopefully with enough data points and enough experience, we can kind of see which channels pay off more than others.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's especially in the kind of beginnings of a business. I mean, you've got, of course, you've got to have a North Star. You've got to have a direction to go by, but at the same time, it's helpful to be flexible enough to adapt to the change in landscape, particularly at the moment with the cost of living kind of crisis everybody's talking about. Well, the kind of, well, it just seems to be very big changes going on, I think, globally at the moment with wars, finances, technology. It's quite a very kind of, we're all entering this kind of like unknown. I find it sometimes a little bit overwhelming when I start thinking about all these things going on everywhere. And then, you've always got to go back to what your sole purpose is, isn't it? And you've got to just essentially just keep soldiering on and keep trying to achieve those goals, and don't get too distracted by what's going on around you.
Absolutely.
And so again, going back to the business side of things, so you guys have a facility where you produce all of your stuff, and is it done by hand? Do you guys have machinery that does it? Like, what's the kind of process of getting your stuff prepared, packaged, and distributed?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because for a long, long time we were, especially Rebecca, considering whether we outsource manufacturing or whether we do it in-house. And then we decided, because Rebecca couldn't find a manufacturer who would kind of do the recipe and the methods justice and the product justice. So we decided to, build our little factory or production site from scratch.
Wow.
So we are renting an industrial unit, and we had an amazing partner who helped us kind of build our dream production site. We built a second floor, so a mezzanine,
Nice.
where we have our storage and our office space, and then below we have a massive walk-in fridge and a production unit, an isolated production unit with a fermentation room. And it's still a very manual process. So we have a shopping machine, and we have a blender to make the kimchi paste, but then everything needs to be mixed by hand. And then we store it in the fermentation room in barrels until it reaches the right pH value. And then we kind of move it into the walk-in fridge until we put it into our pouches. But even the pouches, they are sealed with a heat sealing vacuum machine. But even that, we can only seal 6 pouches at the same time.
Yeah.
So even that needs to be manually done. So
Yeah.
it's still a quite labor-intensive process. That's why we say we try to kind of have an impact with every pouch we produce or sell. And it's really, we say, made with love, just like grandmas. And we really, really mean it, because from the production to the packaging, everything is carefully crafted.
But that adds to the value of the whole. We're still vacuum packers ourselves, so we're producing thousands of packs a week of fish that go into retailers nationwide. But we still could do it all by hand, and in the end, we actually chose to continue like that, because for us in particular, we like the story of doing everything by hand. I think it carries a lot of weight, because as much as machinery and automation, I just find that you kind of lose a little bit every time you adopt more technology in the manufacturing process. It's almost like you just lose that tiny bit more of, I don't know what I want to call it, like not control either, but you lose a little bit of the uniqueness, I guess, of each product. And we decided for that reason to kind of just keep doing it ourselves, because when we looked at the cost savings as well, yes, of course there are cost savings, but then there are other things you got to consider when you get more machinery and automation. It's a lot more complicated. Then you've got, a lot more things to manage in terms of machinery, which can be a bit daunting. And especially when you don't have a lot of space, these machines are quite large. So, so we decided anyway. I guess I was trying to say you're not alone there. I think there's a lot of us that still kind of do things manually, and maybe in time you might realize that actually, you'll carry on doing it that way. Keep that kind of handmade approach to things.
How do you feel about scaling? Because I think this is something we're considering, obviously, that should there be even more demand, how do we fulfill it? Because it's such a manual process. So I don't know, how do you feel about scaling your business?
I think we've got to a point where, yes, we could scale more and we could go to, appeal to supermarkets, but I've kind of made a conscious decision now as well that actually where we are, I quite like where we are. I don't really want to jump to, that's not my end goal. I think the supermarket market is just very competitive, particularly for fish. And when you step into that for us, then we would lose the authenticity we have, because we would have to automate everything to the point that we wouldn't be doing anything by hand as much anymore in order to be competitive. Then you got to go for BRC certification. That adds a lot of barriers as well, because you've got to upgrade a lot your premises. Obviously the training side of things is not a problem, but you got to go through metal detections. It's just much more comprehensive. And I don't know. I think I've got my business to a point now where I'm really happy with the way it is, and we're going to grow, but we're going to grow, I think, more B2C, so online.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I told you, but we've got a mezzanine as well, and we're going to be doing events. So, my idea is to create, busier shops, the um, event space for cooking demonstrations, classes, and I want to keep the community fairly, I don't know, central, if you like. I don't want to lose that into the supermarkets. I don't want to kind of, yeah, that's where I'm at. So the next step would be to go supermarkets, and in which case, yes, of course, you would need much more complex machinery to get the stuff done for you to be able to, meet that demand. But I think
Yeah.
for us at this point, it's not something we're considering. I think we're quite happy with where we are, and we just want to improve the things we have.
Okay. I think you touched upon a very interesting point, and it's also one of our brand pillars. It's the community aspect of it, of the
Mm,
brand, because
mm,
I think in nowadays with social media and everything you can do around the brand, it's not just providing a product, it's also, yeah, building a community. And that's something we also try to do. So we try to use our community to educate them on fermented foods, on gut health, on
mm.
providing them with recipes, and kind of even telling our story, like Rebecca's or my story,
Yeah.
to make it more approachable. And obviously, this is not just purposefully driven in terms of making more money, it's also because it's something we're so passionate about
Mm.
and we want to be authentic. So I think that's why this community aspect that you were mentioning is, yeah, extremely important.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's very easy to, I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's brands that are very, very good at keeping that community feel, even when they scale global. But it just brings a lot of a different set of challenges. Let's put it that way. And I think those challenges at this point for us are just not what we're looking for. I think
Mm.
I love food. I love food a lot. For me, the idea of just improving upon what we have, having the freedom as well to be more innovative, bring other products to market, be able to have the rapport with your customers and be a little bit kind of niche almost as well. I like being a bit exclusive because, again, once you kind of start going to supermarkets, then the smaller retail stores that we supply and have made our business what it is won't be so tempted. We're going to lose that uniqueness that has put us on
Mm.
their shelf, and we've got very simple packaging still to this day. And yeah, and we like the fact that everything's done by hand, and we kind of call ourselves your local fishmonger. So yeah, I think for me, that's where we are. And yeah, I think that's where we're going to continue to head for the time being. Yeah, it's nice like that.
Amazing.
And well, events are a great way. I love doing events. It's such a nice way to bring people together. Oftentimes we get people that bring their other halves in that don't eat fish, and by the end of the event, they love fish because they've never had it cooked or they've never really seen how it's prepared and cooked properly. So yeah, it's nice. I like that side of things a lot.
Absolutely.
So tell me, like, what we all have challenges, obviously, to reach our kind of North Star. You talked about the kind of production side that could be potentially a challenge for scaling. What other kind of challenges do you foresee for your kind of ambitious growth to come? Like, what are you anticipating, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, yeah, scaling is one of the options that we're considering right now, to kind of make sure that we can automate our processes even more to not only reduce costs, but also kind of be more efficient in the production process.
Yeah,
So I think this is one of the challenges we're kind of cautiously thinking about. But we also, with bigger retail, there's also obviously an element of food accreditation. So currently we're trying to get SALSA accredited.
yeah,
SALSA is a food hygiene accreditation, which you need for bigger
yeah.
supermarkets. So we're currently working with a university with an amazing professor in food safety and an intern to get the audit or to successfully pass the audit.
Nice.
So I think these are the main points at the moment. And then obviously also just kind of making sure that we're building a team, a sustainable team and culture with whom we can grow together. Um, so especially since we want to expand to Europe, we need to make sure that we can kind of fulfill the demand in different markets, but
Mhm.
also understand the different markets because not every market is like the UK, especially with a niche product such as fermented foods. We still need to do our part on educating people, but we also need to understand what people need and how we can kind of respond to their needs.
Well, and also navigate all the import export
Yeah.
issues that unfortunately for us we kind of offset. We've got people that handle the importations for us because we do import.
Hmm.
So it's a nightmare paperwork wise, especially with food and
Yeah.
especially with perishables. When you've got a lorry full of fish that's stuck in customs because one box wasn't ticked on the paperwork or something stupid like that, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah, no, definitely.
what so in terms of like your setup as well, so there's obviously you and your partner, and who does what? Like you must have obviously kind of assigned each other roles based on your competencies or things you're better at. How does that work? How do you split your duties?
Yeah, also very good question, because when we started working together, within the first weeks, we kind of mapped out the different areas of the business and who could look after which area. And Rebecca, she has an amazing product knowledge. Like, I don't know anyone else who knows as much about fermentation or kimchi as she does. And every time I listen to her, I'm just so proud I work with her, because every time she speaks, I'm just so impressed.
Nice.
Whereas I went to business school. I have a pure commercial background. I worked in business consulting for 7 years. So I think on paper, we're quite complementary in that sense, that I work more after the commercial side and she looks more after the product side. But when we started working, because Rebecca had the business already for 3 years and I came on as a co-founder, we decided to kind of follow an approach which we called the car crash approach. So we said, I mean, I knock on wood, nothing, nothing happened or will happen. But we said, if something will happen to one of us, we need to make sure that the other person can still run the business.
Yes.
Um, and this sounds, from an outside perspective, super business focused and kind of maybe losing the human element of it. But we just wanted to make sure that we can upskill each other and learn from each other. And it's
Yeah.
not, us coming together is not a linear relationship that 1+1 is 2, because there's so many synergies between us
Yeah.
that kind of, the things we could achieve together were kind of exponential at the beginning. And we really wanted to make sure that we can learn from each other, that she can upskill me on the business side, how she did it in the past, but I can also kind of challenge certain approaches. So that worked extremely well for us in the past year or so. But as we grow, we definitely want to have more siloed perspective on our workload, because you can't do everything together. You also need to be more efficient. And also with all the events coming up, sometimes it just makes more sense that just one of us is attending an event,
Yeah, of
or
course.
just taking a phone call and then is kind of updating the other person. So we haven't, going back to your question, we haven't considered yet like how precisely we're going to split the work, but we definitely want to go there. And we're quite lucky that there was a quite natural and organic divide among the work we're doing. We're currently in our second fundraise, and because I'm the commercial person, I was looking more after the forecast. I created the slide decks and all of that, but obviously Rebecca always had my back and always knew what's going on and always agreed to the numbers and the storyline. So we're still a team and we work best together, but obviously there needs to be a divide at some point to work efficiently together.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's nice that at the moment you've got this kind of crossover all the time between roles. So that's good. I mean, there's the synergy that you need, isn't it? And if you've got that synergy
Yeah.
between the two of you, then that's all you need really at this point, isn't it? So yeah, I'm interested in your funding actually, because that's always a hot topic, of course, for small businesses and especially ones that want to scale. So you've done a funding round already. Is that like Crowdcube, something like that, or did you go to an angel investor of some sort? How did that work?
Yes, our first fundraise was beginning of this year, and we raised with 3 angel investors to build our own production site. So we used that money to build everything from scratch. And we have 3 amazing angel investors who Rebecca knew from networking and kind of friends and family approach. So it was amazing to see that they just trust us and believe in our vision, also believe in us as a team. And now with our second fundraise, we will again go for angel investors. So we will not look into institutional investors for now, because also at this point we're just too small, to be completely honest. But it's just amazing to see that there are actually people believing in us and in the product, and who just really want us to do well and want to be successful and to have them as part of our journey. And for the second fundraise, we're raising a little bit more, and we will use that money for labor costs. So to bring our production staff full time, to pay ourselves, because at this point we're not paying ourselves, but also to invest in marketing and PR a little bit more. And thirdly, to also invest in automation, as we said before, maybe improve equipment, machinery. Well, we do have different softwares in place as for fulfilling orders or invoicing customers, which I think is quite standard. But in terms of streamlining the production process, yeah, we don't use any software or any AI. It's just really manually done. Thank you. No, obviously, if there are any other founders out there who would like to connect, we always appreciate exchange of stories. And for everyone interested in fermented foods, gut health, or in our story, please follow us on Instagram. It's the.ferm with an E .London, or on LinkedIn, the firm with an E. I'm always happy to connect to like-minded people. And yeah, thanks so much for having us. Really enjoyed our conversation. I'm looking forward to staying in touch. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.